Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the UEFA eEURO 2021 tournament. I am Lee Deeman-Smith, and join me once again is Harry Channon for this delightful tournament. We had a fantastic time last year, Harry, so we're doing it all again.
Oh, and it's great to be back as well this year. So honoured. Obviously, as you said, last year's tournament, such a success. Everyone enjoyed themselves. We saw thrills, spills, plenty of goals. Let's run it back. Let's do it all again.
Indeed. Let's have a look exactly how it played out last year.
Could have a chance here for Serbia, maybe to upset the eEURO. It's the first goal of the finals. Look at that ball over to the top to Immobile. He'll actually get there, and he lifts it over the keeper. And it's Pellegrini to run onto it. Zaniolo has a runner inside. It's qualifiers. Mitrovic tackled, and well, it's bounced back here for Jovic. It's off the bar. Acrobatics. Quagliarella, look on the far side. Insigne can maybe go for goal. He's come back, double touch, and it's in. What a goal! What a goal for Italy! What a goal for Naples! Italy have just won eEURO 2020 with a fabulous goal!
And what a fantastic run it was from Italy there, taking down Serbia in the finals eventually, but also taking out the likes of France, a big favourite in the semi-finals.
Yeah, and you could see the emotion and what it meant for them to be crowned eventual eEURO 2020 champions. The thrills and spills that we mentioned previously, most of them were had by Italy in the end, and as you said, they took some big scalps along the way.
Well, it was an unorthodox process of choosing the Italian team, but it paid off for them in the end. And of course, I had a word with them yesterday. So I'm joined by Nicoldan and Alfonso Greyfox of the Italian national team, the team that won the eEURO 2020. How did it feel to come out on top last year?
Oh, guys, first reaction was a shock because we didn't expect to make this result, and we were, how can I say, confident that we were a good team, but the favorite team, it was not prognosticated, so to come to at this great result, it was very nice. It was incredible, and even if it's passed so much months from these results, it's still a great emotion. Very great emotion.
And obviously you were a team of four, which a lot of people were like, oh, the rotation, will it work? But are you confident of your chances to retain the trophy in the eEURO 2021?
We are confident that we are a good team, and we are the team that is favorite. There are many very good teams in the other country, but we will fight all that all for win the trophy.
So obviously, you guys are the champions. How many hours do you guys practice a day in PES?
In reality, it depends. When we were close in our house, cause COVID, we are intensified the hours of training because it was a bad occasion, but in a certain way, a good occasion for train. So we were all the day to train for Euro 2020, but someone of us has even another job. So it depends from the busy of every one of us. But in the middle. Almost 3-4 hours, because it's good to do few hours, but there must be quality in the train, so 3-4 hours is the perfect middle.
Fantastic to hear. Well, congratulations once again, obviously, on the 2020 victory. Let's see what 2021 will bring to you in the group draw. And Harry, I think very respectful there from Alfonso, talking about the fact, they are the defending champions, but the fact is we're back to 0-0. It's back to level 0 all over again.
Yeah, and they're going to come into this year's tournament with a big bullseye on their back, aren't they? I mean, you have 54 other nations looking to try and knock them off the perch, so they do have to start from square one, essentially, to try and regain the crown this year.
Well, as you mentioned, all the teams are ready to take part. But first, let's look at exactly how the tournament will play out.
The eEURO 2021 is a gaming tournament featuring 55 nations, battling it out on eFootball PES 2021. The tournament is split into 3 main phases. The first phase is the player selection phase for all national associations. Second phase is the online qualifiers, and the third phase is the finals. During the player selection phase, each one of the 55 nations finds 2 to 4 players to represent them. In phase 2 of the tournament, the online qualifiers, the nations are randomly drawn into 5 groups of 5 teams and 5 groups of 6 teams. The nations playing each other in their respective groups in a round-robin format. First place in each group will qualify directly for the finals, while second-place teams will be drawn into 2 new groups of 5. The top 3 teams in each of these groups will qualify for the finals. During Phase 3, the finals, the 16 qualified nations will be placed into a set of 4 groups, where they'll play each other. The top 2 teams from each group progress onto the next round into the knockout rounds. Eventually, nations are knocked out until 2 remain, and the winning nation is finally crowned as the eEURO 2021 champions.
And as you can see, it is a bit of a gauntlet to become the champion of the UEFA eEURO 2021, and we wouldn't expect anything less, Harry.
No, we wouldn't. It's such a long road to get to those finals in the first place. You have obviously the player selection phase. Each governing body has its own, selection process there, and then you have to go through the qualifiers. If you can't automatically qualify, you then have to go through the playoff groups. And we saw so many upsets last year. It's such a great format, and hopefully we can see the same again this year.
Well, of course, there is one person that's helping steer the ship behind the scenes for all of this. It is Peter Dennis from UEFA. I'm joined by Peter Dennis here as the licensing manager of UEFA for the eEURO 2021, of course. And Peter, what was your impression of UEFA's tournament last year here in the 2020?
We were absolutely delighted by the first edition of the tournament. With the real Euro having been put back a year, there was made to have a gap in the calendar, a gap that could be filled by the eEURO. And some of the numbers were just amazing. We had over 10,000 people take part. We had over 15 million people watch the event. Myself, personally, what sticks in my mind is that interaction between real football and eFootball. Roberto Mancini speaking, communicating to the e-gamers from the Italian team, and the pride that the gamers had in wearing the national team and representing their country.
And of course, what were you personally looking forward to the most in this year's tournament?
Well, we're going to cross our fingers that there's a physical event at the end of the tournament this year. As you know, it is planned between the semi-finals and the final of Euro 2020 in London. And I'm just looking forward to being up close and seeing the gamers going head to head, feeling the tension and just seeing exactly how they do those skills on the gaming pad so quick and the reactions that go with it. So fingers crossed we can be there in London to see that personally.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the real life celebrations of the players when they actually win instead of just seeing them the other side of the screen. Thank you very much for joining us, Peter. We're hoping we're going to have a fantastic tournament.
Cheers, Lee. Have a great draw. See you soon.
Great to get to speak to Peter once again, Harry. Obviously, we had the pleasure of meeting him in person last year, but COVID definitely making it a bit more difficult this year.
Yeah, and it was so good to hear his rationale behind the whole tournament as well, you know, trying to get all 55 nations involved. Obviously, it's quite a gargantuan effort, but he's made it happen 2 years in a row now. And hopefully, again, this type of tournament allows those maybe lower down footballing nations that we're not used to seeing towards the top end really shine through on the esports stage.
Let's hope we can blow those viewing figures out the water once again. So let's have a look at the teams that are taking part. Of course, pot one's where all the big seeds are. And what I'm talking about is big seeds in the footballing world of PES, not so much possibly in real life, which is why you're seeing obviously the defending champions, the runners up in there like Italy and Serbia, but also the big boys of Germany, Spain, France, as you'd expect.
Yeah, some big teams in pot one, but also some sort of prickly, thorny teams in pots 2 and 3 as well. You have the likes of Turkey and Portugal who will, maybe make a few groups of death, and then in pot 3 as well, Sweden, quite a large nation that hopes to better on their performance from last year.
Absolutely. Obviously, the fact is we're talking about some top nations. France especially, they were big favourites last year. Exactly why was that?
Well, they had the reigning world champion in Uzmakabeel. They selected him and Lotfi, who were taking the eFootball world by storm. They had won back-to-back eFootball Pro Leagues, and they were only stopped short by the eventual champions in the semi-final in Italy. So hopefully they'll be thinking that they can go even one better this year.
The big question is, where was England? Where was England? Where did they get to? What happened?
In a terrible group of death last year, if I remember correctly. So fingers crossed we can do them a bit of justice this year.
Well, let's see if there's any groups of death this year round, ladies and gentlemen. We are ready to go live for the UEFA eEURO 2021 draw. Let's get it underway, starting out with pot 1. First country, who will it be and where will they go? Of course, all the top seeds will have a group of their own. It will be Spain out the door first. Last year, they drew Portugal in a real tense group, and they're going to slot straight into Group A.
Yeah, they had to qualify via the playoffs last year, but Jose Mestre, representing Bayern München in the eFootball Pro League, is heading up the Spanish force this year.
And of course, Spain obviously is a massively star-studded nation, but the Netherlands, they're certainly no slouches. Of course, they had a struggle to reach the finals, and they're going to fall down to Group J.
Well, you said they had a struggle. They had a 100% qualifying performance last year, 30 points out of a possible 30. So maybe the opposite of a struggle. They actually.
I meant in the actual live in the quarterfinals. When we got there, when we got to the actual tournament. Obviously, yeah. I expect most of these top seeds to run through the group. Serbia, somewhat a surprise. I don't think too many people expected them in the final, but they put up a fantastic show last year.
Yeah, Kepa and Roxa no doubt will be representing them again, currently representing AS Roma in the eFootball Pro League, of course, the highest level of eFootball PES at the moment.
Deutschland, aka Germany, where I'm living right now, and they are going to fall into Group B.
Yeah, they fell to Romania at the finals last year. They were able to get into the groups, but finished third behind Romania, who went on to have a tremendous run, making all the way to the semi-finals.
Yeah, expected them to maybe go all the way as well. Romania really were outstanding. Another team that was outstanding throughout the groups was Israel. Big surprise from everyone, but they had the perfect run and they fall into Group F.
Yeah, qualifying on top of their group, but they fell eventually in the quarterfinals at the big stage. They'll be hoping for a similar performance, if not better, this year and this time around.
Romania now going to be coming out, as we mentioned. Fantastic run from them. I don't think anyone was too surprised by that. They had some great players, and they're going into Group G.
Yeah, Romania had a tremendous performance, and one of the fallouts of that kind of situation was that Irma, who represented Romania last year, found himself in the eFootball Pro League thanks to his performances.
Yeah, did fantastically well. The defending champions, Italy, obviously with their 4-man roster that many people were very sceptical about.
Yeah, and we heard from Nicola and Alfonso earlier on. they're going to have huge targets on their back. I would be surprised if they can go all the way again. They certainly have it in them. They've proven it already, but yeah, certainly a tough and tall order this time around.
Group H for Italy means they will be in a team with 6 teams in there. Croatia falling in. Will they go into one of the 5 groups? They will. It's going to be into C.
Yeah, had a tough group last year. I believe their qualifying group featured France, so they had to go through the playoffs groups and actually qualified ahead of Portugal. They were the reason that Portugal didn't qualify. They were ahead of them by 1 point come the end of playoff group play. So Croatia, one of the surprise packages last year.
Was a tough group, no doubt about it. Obviously, Portugal going to be maybe looking to avenge that. We'll see where they fall. But now it is going to be Austria. Will it be D or I for them? It will be into D.
Yeah, they're another nation that qualified via the playoff groups last year. They'll have a shot at qualifying automatically this year, and if they fail to do so and they can finish in one of those second place spots, they can try and go through the playoff group again.
And of course that means France are the only nation left, which means they will fall into Group I. Big favourites once again.
Yeah, they also had a 100% win record in qualifying phases last year, but were unfortunately bested by Italy in the semi-finals.
And I believe it was 2 very tight games against Italy in the semi-finals, but we were somewhat surprised that it happened. So moving on to pot number 2 now. So obviously looking at some big names throughout this. Obviously Greece certainly did very well. Portugal within here, of course, as well. Finland will be the first team out of pot 2. Who will they be with? It's Spain in Group A.
Yeah, none of these groups looking particularly easy currently. Obviously, Spain are another big nation, but Finland last year made it to the playoff groups. They'll be hoping they can, again, sort of replicate that performance this year.
We'll see whether we get any of those stacked home nations or Scandinavian groups or anything like that. It's all possible. Montenegro will be the next team out. And who are they going to be falling in with? D into Austria's group.
Yeah, a bit of a surprise finals appearance, I suppose you could say, from Montenegro last year. They topped the playoff group, but unfortunately lost in the group stages, lost out to Croatia in the end.
Yeah, okay, next group out. Let's see who it will be. It will be Bosnia and Herzegovina. Had the best goal of the tournament, simply, last year. Despite the fact it was a consolation, they fall into Group E alongside Serbia.
Yeah, rough group there for Bosnia and Herzegovina. Serbia, no doubt, will be looking to replicate their performances, but you're right, that Miralem Pjanic free kick was a thing of beauty, wasn't it?
Absolutely fantastic goal. Top corner, top stamp. Luxembourg will be out next. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I did have to learn the flags of the world to make sure I got these all correct. And they will be going into Group G with Romania.
Yeah, I think that they might be slightly happier with that group. They've avoided the likes of Germany, Croatia, Italy and France, the big nations that still have groups still to fill. I think they'll be okay with that, Luxembourg.
We'll see what Irma has to say about that in Romania, whether he's still there or not. So, next up is Kazakhstan. Let's see, are they going to be into one of those? They're going into with Germany. Now, I want to ask you, Harry, as a nation, would you be happier going into a group of 5 or a group of 6? I mean, you got technically more chance in group of 6, maybe? I don't know.
It's true. I think maybe I would fancy myself in a group of 5 just purely because there's less chances of maybe getting one of those bigger teams. But I'm not really sure. There's a reason we're commentators, Lee, instead of playing in these types of competitions.
True that. Then, of course, Lithuania will be falling into Group F alongside Israel.
Yeah, both Lithuania and Kazakhstan made it to the playoff groups last year, but couldn't quite make it over that final hurdle to make a finals appearance.
Strong esports nations, no doubt about it. So that leaves Turkey, Denmark, Greece and Portugal remaining. It will be Turkey coming out here, and they will fall into Group C alongside Croatia.
Yeah, that's already probably one of the toughest groups we have drawn so far. Turkey were eliminated in 3rd place in Group B at the finals last year. So Croatia, I don't think they're very happy with us right now, I can tell you that much.
So the final teams, let's see where they will fall. I think Portugal will be happy they don't fall in with Spain. It will be Greece coming out. Who will they get? They will fall into Group J with the Netherlands. That's a tough group.
It is a tough group because Greece last year, 100% record in qualifying as well, boasting a plus 32 goal difference to go along with that. So, yeah, the Netherlands, hey, they have a pretty tricky group already.
So just Denmark and Portugal remaining for groups H and I. That's two tough teams. Portugal, who's it going to be? Italy or France? Oh my word, it's going to be the defending champions. And I'm not sure Portugal are going to be too happy about that.
No, they went out in the playoffs last year after placing second to Romania in their official qualifying group. Yeah, that's a tough one. Christopher and the boys have a bit of work to do.
And Denmark, of course, falling into Group I with France.
Yeah, they also qualified via the playoff groups last year, but were eliminated in fourth place by Turkey, I believe.
Of course, these teams are all not just playing for pride, although, simply winning the tournament is enough for a lot of these players, but there is also prize money up for grabs. 40,000 euros going to first place, down to 20,000, of course, for the runner-up, and then the semi-finalists, the quarter-finalists, and the group runner-ups will also get themselves some money, down to 16th place.
Yeah, not a bad chunk of change, is it, for twiddling your thumbs? Obviously, you need to get to the finals before you qualify for that kind of money. But once you get there, you're in the money.
So, moving on to pot 3. This is going to be the likes of Albania, Slovenia, Moldova, Slovakia, Russia, Belarus, Bulgaria, Ukraine, Sweden, and Belgium on your screen. The first team out of the draw. They're going to be falling into Group F along with Israel and Lithuania.
I think they'll be happy with that draw. They had a disappointing year last year, Belgium, when you consider in the real world aspect of football, they're quite highly ranked on the world stage, aren't they? So I think they'll be quite happy with that group.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of got the golden generation in real life, right, at the moment. So it's one of those things. Every nation kind of has that little golden generation for once in a while, but we'll see how it works out for them. So Russia, they're going to fall into Group E, and that will be alongside Serbia and Bosnia-Herzegovina.
Yeah, Russia were very close to a playoff spot last year, just missing out by 2 points behind Austria. So they have the capability of going far. Let's just see if they can put some performances together this year.
Okay, moving on next. Team out. Some tough draws definitely out there, no doubt about it. We'll see where this one falls. Bulgaria will move into Group B. That's alongside Germany and Kazakhstan.
I'd say Germany quite happy so far. That's a tough group for Bulgaria. Don't forget, of course, all the players have to control their own nations within the game, which are stat balanced, but you still need to know your players and know their strengths and weaknesses to get the most out of them.
Still plenty of groups to go, plenty open. Of course, this time Albania, where will they fall into? Will be Group I alongside France and Denmark. A tough one for Albania there.
Yeah, really tough. We know the capabilities of France. We know Denmark were able to make a finals appearance by the playoff groups as well. Really tough one there for Albania.
So that just leaves 6 teams remaining. Sweden. Will they fall alongside any other nation, like maybe possibly into Finland's group? No, it's going to be Group C alongside Croatia and Turkey.
It's already looking very stacked indeed, Group C. I noted Sweden as a nation that last year maybe should have performed a little bit better and got a bit unlucky. They're in a group with some very heavy hitters already.
Sweden, obviously one of the, if not the strongest esports nation out there, I believe, for many games. But Belarus will be out next. And where will they fall? Into Group J. They will fall alongside the Netherlands and Greece.
Yeah, I'm fortunate there for Belarus. 2 nations last year that both had 100% qualifying records, and you're slotting in between them.
Yeah, not ideal, that's for sure, but you never know. They are in Group J alongside, obviously, 6 teams, so there's a potential. The potential there could be a high 3rd place, I don't know. We'll see how it works out for them. Moldova coming out next. A couple of groups remaining for them. And it will be into Group H, oh my word, alongside Italy and Portugal.
Yeah, Moldova last year missing out on a playoff berth by just 3 points behind Kazakhstan. I think it'll be a bit trickier for them this year.
So just Slovakia, Slovenia and Ukraine remaining in pot 3. As we shuffle through the nations, it will be Slovenia out first. And they will fall into Group D alongside Austria and Montenegro.
I think they'll be quite happy with that group, to be honest with you. They only missed out on a playoff berth by 2 points behind Portugal. in last year's competition, so a few results going their way this year, who knows?
I think that's possibly the group I'd love to see England fall into. There's a chance, I feel, in Group D. That's a little open at the moment. Well, you know, we'd like to see a slightly better draw than you gave them last year, Harry.
Yeah, I take full responsibility for that one.
Slovakia, they're going to be falling into, where will they go? There's only two options, of course. It will be Group G. So they're going to slot alongside Romania and Luxembourg.
Yeah, that's an interesting group. I think, again, they'll be quite happy with that. They were another team that only missed the playoff berth by 2 points last year. So, again, a few results go their way. Who knows?
Tough group coming up. Group A is the only one possible, so it will be Spain, Finland, and the Ukraine.
Oh, that is very tasty indeed. I'm looking forward to that one.
It is a tough group. So that is pot 3 concluded. We move on to pot 4. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, there are some home nations in here for England fans out there. Scotland, North Macedonia, Norway, Poland, Kosovo, Hungary, Faroe Islands, San Marino, Armenia, and of course Hungary, who have come out first. Who will they be joining? It is Group G, Romania, Luxembourg, and Slovakia.
Yeah, not a bad group there for Hungary. They disappointed slightly last year. They potentially could have gotten a few results and let a few results slip here or there. If they can tighten up that, then maybe they can get some results going their way and again push towards maybe a playoff berth this year.
So the next country coming out is the Norwegians. Will they end up maybe against some Scandinavian group? No, they will not. Oh, well, yes, actually they will. Tell a lie. They're going to fall into Group I. That's a tough group. France, Denmark, Albania, and Norway.
Yeah, Scandinavian rivals. I remember Norway in the group stages last year scoring some really nice goals. Tembo and the boys over there. So hopefully they can entertain us once more this year.
Well, Norway certainly got some real-life fantastic footballers. I don't think they'd be too upset about playing with Erling Haaland up front for the team. Well, here's one of the home nations for certainly us, Harry. Scotland. They are going to fall into Group J. Netherlands, Greece, Belarus, and Scotland. Not an easy one.
It's not an easy one when you consider, as we said before with Belarus, 2 teams last year who had 100% winning records in qualifying play. So, yeah, tough one there for Scotland.
Next up will be San Marino. I don't know how I feel about England and San Marino being in the same pot these days, but that's just how it is sometimes online. We're not the greatest in esports, that's for sure.
No.
And San Marino will fall into a very tough Group C, alongside Croatia, Turkey, and Sweden.
Probably worst case scenario there, I think, for San Marino. That is a very, very difficult group. I mean, there's no easy groups at this type of competition, but obviously you want to try and avoid some of the nations like Turkey and Croatia who had a great year last year.
Okay, just a couple more teams remaining. It will be Kosovo. Out next, where will they be falling into? Group D, alongside Austria, Montenegro, and Slovenia.
Again, Kosovo probably pretty happy with their draw there. I mean, no real big hitters in there apart from Austria, who obviously qualified via the playoffs last year.
I was hoping England would fall into that one, but it wouldn't. It's not happening, unfortunately. Sadly, have no control over the draw. Let's see where the next one is. It is the Faroe Islands coming out next. Of course, they can't fall alongside Denmark, their host nation, effectively. They will go into Group F. So that is with Israel, Lithuania, and Belgium.
Yeah, another interesting group there. I did misspeak in Group D. Of course, we have Montenegro, who also featured in the finals last year. But yeah, Group F, that one's up for grabs in my eyes. Israel had a great year last year, but can they do it again?
Yeah, big ask for them, no doubt about it. So England, North Macedonia, Poland, and Armenia remaining in the draw. North Macedonia will be next out, and they will be falling into Group A. Oh, it's a tough one. Spain, Finland, and the Ukraine.
Yeah, that's a rough one. You didn't want to fall into that group, especially not when you consider Spain last year had such a good year. They fell in the group stages, but had to go through the playoffs and just never really looked back until the semi-finals.
I just got that feeling, Harry. England are going to fall into Group B. I can see it happening. It's still open right now. I feel it's coming. Armenia up next. Where will they end up going? It will be Group E for Armenia. That's alongside Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Russia.
A tricky little group there. It's certainly up for grabs again, apart from Serbia and Bosnia and Russia. So actually trying to think about it, yeah, probably not the best group there for Armenia either.
Just Poland and England remaining. And Group B or H are the spots. Well, England, okay, will it be? If don't be Group H, for the love of God. Not again, please. I would say, oh dear Lord, it's going to be a Group H for England. That means alongside Italy, Portugal and Moldova.
Really rough one there for Osman Idris and number one Pirate. We tried to give you a better group this year, and we know we gave you the group of death last year, but it's happened again.
It will be, of course, Poland finally falling into Group B. That will be with Germany, Kazakhstan and Bulgaria. So, obviously, we have just pot 5 to go here, but we should talk about when this is actually all going to be played out. So let's get the schedule on your screens. Of course, it will be the group stage starting out on the 15th of March between 5 and 10 p.m. And Harry, you're going to be guiding us through all of these games.
Yeah, I have the hot seat, so to speak. I get to talk through all the action between alternating groups on alternating weeks. And then, of course, we have the runners-up playoffs later on in May as well. For all those teams that fell at the final hurdle, so to speak, they get another chance, another bite at the cherry, which makes for some very tantalising games ahead of us here in the eEURO 2021.
So keep an eye on where your groups are and obviously where you're going to be playing. But of course, you're going to want to watch the whole thing because you want to see which nation will really come out on top. So pot 5 underway. Let's see. Lots of teams. I'm not even going to try and list them because there's so many within this final pot. Obviously, these are the teams that didn't do so well in previous years. So Cyprus up and out first, and they're going to fall into Group C alongside Croatia, Turkey, Sweden and San Marino.
Yeah, we keep saying all of these are difficult groups. I mean, if there's a group you want to fall in here, it's probably, we're looking at maybe Group F, where only Israel had a tremendous year last year. So if you can fall into that group, there's 2 spots left, you're probably laughing.
Well, Azerbaijan will be next out, and they are going to go into Group I. Ooh, it's a tough one. France, Denmark, Albania and Norway.
Yeah, maybe one of those groups you want to avoid alongside Group H is Group I. Obviously, you have France, semi-finalists. Denmark, they were finalists. And Norway, they want to try and make a name for themselves this year as well.
So, up next, who will it be? Has your nation been drawn yet? It will be Andorra out next, and they will fall into Group D. Concluding that group, that's Austria, Montenegro, Slovenia and Kosovo.
Yeah, decent draw, I would say, for Andorra there. Again, we said Austria and Montenegro last year, final appearances for both of those nations, but could be wide open if you can get some results on the day.
Okay, next team up, as my cats are getting involved with one another. It's just distracting me briefly there. Latvia are up next, and they will fall into Group B. I don't think they're going to be too upset with that. Honestly, other than, say, Germany, obviously a strong nation in there, and Poland, honestly, are very strong in esports in general, but they were a pot 4 team, so there's a chance there.
They were. Poland, one of those teams, I think, that could shock people this year. Mikolaj representing Manchester United in the eFootball Pro, his second season now. Also reigning European champion representing Poland. So, tricky group for Latvia. Tricky group for everyone involved, really. Obviously, you wanted to avoid a big team, but there are 2 big teams and 2 big nations there in Group B.
So, moving on. Who will be up next? It's Czechia. Where will they fall into? They will go into Group J. Tough one there. Netherlands, Greece, Belarus, Scotland and the Czech Republic.
Yeah, a few results again though. If you can scrape some results against some of the lower down teams and maybe steal a draw or maybe even a win against the likes of Greece and Netherlands who didn't even suffer a loss in the qualifying stage last year. Maybe you give yourself a fighting chance in that group of at least a playoff spot.
I can see a lot of the groups already along the top already concluded. There's not too many spots left in there. It will be Estonia, coming out next, and they will fall into Group A and conclude that group. That's going to be Spain, Finland, Ukraine, North Macedonia, and of course Estonia.
Yeah, really interesting group. That's another one completed. We're almost there. We've only got a few nations to go, but yeah, Estonia, another team or another nation that struggled last year. If they can get the practice in, maybe we could see a better showing of them this time around.
I'm seeing a strong chance for some home nation rivalry coming up here. Here's the Republic of Ireland. Where will they fall? And it will be Group F for them. They avoid England but end up with Israel, Lithuania, Belgium and the Faroe Islands.
Yeah, I don't want to call any groups particularly weak, but again, that Group F probably the spot I would like to enter if I'm any of the nations still waiting to be drawn here in the draw show.
Well, we'll see who will be up next. Not too many teams remaining as we look to conclude it. Iceland. Well, they easy clapped England in real life. We'll see whether they can do it. Oh my word, they are in with England, ladies and gentlemen, alongside Italy, Portugal and Moldova.
Should we leave? Is it time for us to leave now?
Start the claps, get going, people.
That will be a tremendous rematch. And I'll tell you what, England will fancy a bit of revenge on the esports platform here.
Well, we'll see whether it happens. That's going to be definitely one I'm going to look forward to watching, Harry. But who will be up next? We have Malta coming out. And where will they fall? They will fall into Group E, concluding that group alongside Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Russia and Armenia.
Yeah, I think Bosnia and Herzegovina and Serbia are both quite happy with that group. They've avoided the likes of Poland and Sweden, who are in the lower down pots. But it's like we said before, at this stage of the game, at this level of competition, anything can happen, and it's just about if you can get the results to go your way on the day.
So next out, who will it be? It's Liechtenstein, and they will fall into Group G, and that's alongside Romania, Luxembourg, Slovakia, Hungary, and of course Liechtenstein.
Yeah, an interesting group there again. Liechtenstein, I think, again, last year would have loved to have seen more results go their way. No doubt there have been players that have been practicing and going through that gauntlet of the player selection process to give it another fighting chance this year.
Just 5 teams remaining now. Switzerland, Georgia, Northern Ireland, Gibraltar and Wales. And it will be Wales out first. Where will they fall? Will they end up with England in Group H? No, they will fall into Group I, and that's a tough group. France, Denmark, Albania, Norway, Azerbaijan and Wales to conclude it.
Yeah, another tough group there for Wales. You're looking at France and Denmark in that group as surefire favourites first and foremost, but again, if you can steal a result on the day, I keep saying it, that's the nature of esports. If you can shock the world, you really give yourself the best chance possible to advance into the grand finals.
So, Gibraltar, will they fall in? I mean, that would be ironic if they end up playing England. They will go Group G, and they will fall into a tough old group. Romania, Luxembourg, Slovakia, Hungary, Liechtenstein and Gibraltar.
Yeah, I think Romania perfectly happy with that group, to be honest with you. I mean, I know we saw Luxembourg last year win their qualifying group, but they went out in the group stages, had a bit of a lacklustre performance. So Romania, I think, probably perfectly happy with that group that they've been drawn here today.
See whether they can maybe deliver on their day. Just Switzerland, Georgia and Northern Ireland remaining. It will be Switzerland. Would you believe Switzerland, a pot 5 team? I know, obviously, if you to look at them in they're an A-grade team in real life these days, and they will fall into Group F, concluding that group with Israel, Lithuania, Belgium, Faroe Islands, Republic of Ireland.
Yeah, and it's the beauty of this type of competition, isn't it? Yes, they're a pot 5 team, but you have to remember the players using Switzerland in this tournament get to use the real life counterparts, so the likes of Shaqiri, who are such strong players in the game, they get to utilise them as weapons. So it's a interesting concept, this entire tournament.
Just Georgia or Northern Ireland now is all that remains. It's Northern Ireland, and where will they fall? It's HOJ. Oh, and would you believe it? They will be falling into the group with Italy, Portugal, Moldova, England and Iceland.
Yeah, it was either a home nation clash with England or Scotland there for Northern Ireland, but they've drawn the group of death there in Group H.
And of course, that means Georgia will conclude the draw and they will fall in with the Netherlands, Greece, Belarus, Scotland, and Czechia. So, Harry, what are we looking at here? We've got some real tough groups out there, I feel. It's not been too kind to some of the big nations, even. Obviously, some of the Pot 1 teams are going to be a little aggrieved with the teams they got from Pot 2 and 3.
Yeah, we spoke about it at the top of the show, didn't we? There are Pot 2 and Pot 3 teams that could really go all the way in this type of tournament. We see in Group A, Spain and Finland, the two big nations there. Even in Group B, Germany have to contend with Poland, who have the reigning European champion on their roster this time around. Group C, two nations that made the finals last year, Croatia and Turkey. So yeah, there was some pretty rough draws all around. It should make for some very interesting gameplay come March time when these groups start playing.
And Sweden, a nation that normally does deliver online, certainly in esports. We'll see whether they can do it in Group C. Moving on, of course, to the final 5 groups. Some real tough action. Group H, obviously a standout there with both Italy and Portugal. I would like to throw England in there, but I don't think they're going to be too much of a threat for Italy and Portugal.
I don't think so, unfortunately. I would love for Osman Idris and number 1 Pirate to do us proud, but you have the likes of Alfonso Grey Fox that we saw, of course, Nicola that we spoke to earlier, or that you spoke to yesterday, I should say, to contend with in that group. So yeah, some real tasty ones, and I can't wait to get group play underway now. I know we're over a month away still, but I want these games to happen tomorrow.
Well, speaking of which, let's have a look at exactly when this will all play out. Starting things off on the 15th of March, Harry will be guiding you through all of the action from 5 till 10 every alternate Monday therein. Of course, round-robin action, lots of games.
Yeah, lots of games. We'll be jumping in between the groups and see all the eFootball pairs that happens. Obviously, if I remember correctly, best of 2 matches between 2 competitors. So it's always a fun watch. And then, of course, going on into May, we have those runners-up playoffs as well. So the teams who didn't quite win their groups, the best of the rest, so to speak, get another chance to maybe qualify. If you are in a group of death, you have that second chance in those playoff groups.
Well, I know all the players out there would have been watching this, waiting to see who their practice partners can be. I spoke to Italy, obviously, yesterday, and I did ask them, it's like, well, we want to practice, we're ready to go, but we don't really know who we're going to face yet. Well, now you do, Italy. You're going to be up against Portugal, so strike them off as a practice partner. And everybody else out there, get ready to play, because it all kicks off on the 15th of March at 5 Central European Summer Time. It's going to be a fantastic tournament, no doubt about it, and I hope to see you there.